Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today we're going to be cracking open the brand new Sacred Beast structure deck. This is pretty exciting. A lot of people were really looking forward to this structure deck, and I don't blame them. The Sacred Beasts are like iconic when it comes to like the GX era of Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I'm not going to make you guys wait any longer. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it here. Now, in terms of like competitive viability when it comes to this structure deck, I wouldn't exactly get your hopes up. The Sacred Beasts are still a relic of old era Yu-Gi-Oh! And they definitely are going to have their shortcomings when it comes to wanting to play this deck in any sort of high tier capacity, but nonetheless the deck has still received a pretty significant boost in terms of how some of these new cards that have been released for them function, and those cards, funny enough, might actually be on like the brink of competitive viability, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later on as we get into it here. Man, I gotta just love these plastics. Always a blast to get these off. But okay, there we go. All right, so starting with our first card here, we have Raphael, Lord of Phantasms, Shimmering Scraper. So Dark level 10, Fiend, 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing 3 monsters. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. As a quick effect, you can discard this card and target one Raphael, Lord of Phantasms you control. For the rest of this turn, its attack becomes double its current attack, and it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. That's pretty cool if you're trying to OTK with Raphael. Raphael's being like one of the big heavy hitters here. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute a monster, add this card to your hand. So the fact that it recurs itself is pretty nice, and it's a pretty sweet addition, giving the deck some much needed OTK potential. I know there's a lot of control aspects with this deck for sure, but I think it's still nice to see. There's our Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames. I definitely think the Ultimate Rares look way cooler, but it is nice to just have all of these in here for anyone looking to pick up these decks. There's Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder. I personally love Raphael the best. Raphael just has like the, I mean, I always loved Obelisk the Tormentor out of the actual Egyptian gods, but I think Raphael still is one of the coolest ones. Here's Armatile, the Chaos Phantom, the amalgamized fusion of all 3 of them. And now we have Cerulean Skyfire. So this is a continuous spell. To special summon Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, using its own procedure. You can also use face down spell cards you control. Haman typically has to be face up. Once per turn, you can control, or excuse me, while you control an attack position Haman, you can negate any spell or trap effect activated by your opponent, then change one Haman you control to defense position. If a face-up Uriah, Haman, or Raphael you control leaves the field, you take no damage this turn. So that last part is like fine, but I think the middle part is where this card effect really shines. Also being able to make it so that all your continuous spells to get into Haman are viable, so that's pretty nice as well. But being able to negate any spell or trap effect, it is very conditional because like you do need Haman and that for that to work. But next we have Hyper Blaze. This is a super rare in terms of with Cerulean Skyfire. So Hyper Blaze, to special summon Uriah using its own procedure, you can also use face down traps you control. This is big because I think it's a lot easier to get face up continuous spells than continuous traps. So this helps make Uriah a lot more easier to get to. Once per battle, when an attack is declared involving your Uriah, you can send one trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Its attack and defense becomes the number of face-up traps on the field and in the graveyards times 1,000 for the rest of the turn. Once per turn, you can discard a card, add to your hand, or special summon one Uriah, Haman, or Raphael from your graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. That's pretty cool. Now, I think the unfortunate part about this, and I want to double check this here for a moment. Let me just pick up Raphael here. Cannot be special summoned, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing 3 Fiend monsters. So it doesn't say it has to be special summoned first, so I'm not sure if you can just like dump it and then just immediately get access to it. If you can, that's pretty sweet. I'll admit I'm not the most well-versed with the Sacred Beast, but I'm sure someone will let me know down in the comments below. Next, we have Dimension Fusion Destruction. So it's a normal spell card. Banish from your hand or field or graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on Phantasm Fusion Monster, then special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You take no battle damage from attacks involving the monster special summoned by this effect. If you control Uriah, Haman, or Raphael, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. So a little bit of a spell speed 1 super poly type of effect. I mean, it's pretty cool. Again, massive damage output for sure, but it's perfectly fine. Next up here, we have Chaos Core. So this is a dark level 3 fiend effect, 0 attack and defense. When either player activates a card or effect that targets this card, or when your opponent's monster targets it for an attack, quick effect, you can send up to one of each Uriah, Haman, and Ravael from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, place a Phantasm counter on this card for each card sent to the graveyard. And if you place at least one, you take no battle damage this turn. You can only use this effect of Chaos Core once per turn. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove a Phantasm counter from this card instead. This card's like, okay, it's kind of like a lot of words and doesn't really do a whole lot. Getting everything in the grave, I think, is like the best part of this card, but it's fine. A lot of like the deck doesn't really care too much about that. These are the cards we're going to be wanting to care about more. So this is Dark Beckoning Beast, a dark level 2 fiend, 0 attack and defense. When it's normal summoned, you can add a Uriah, Haman, or Ravael, or one card that specifically lists any of those cards in its text from your deck to your hand, except itself. So that gives you a pretty wide array of options, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn during your main phase, you can normal summon one fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summon or set. So it's a searcher, and it gives you an extra normal summon? Sign me up. That is exactly what I love to see in a card. Next up, we have Chaos Summoning Beast. It's another dark level 1 fiend, 0 attack and defense. You can 1-for-1 into this, which is kind of cool. You can tribute this card, special summon a Uriah, Haman, or Ravael from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is pretty cool because you can normal summon this off of the Dark Summoning Beast if you want, in addition to your other normal summon. You're able to get the field spell of the deck, which is pretty nice because it's like basically Pot of Greed if you can get some cards to stick. Just a pretty nice card all around. And here is Dark Summoning Beast. So dark level 5 fiend, 0 attack and defense. You can tribute this card, special summon a Uriah, Haman, or Ravael from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. The fact this can get from the deck is very, very good. Also, monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn. That's where this card is very, very bad. I wish they just made this that you could just attack the turn you do. You're already playing Sacred Beasts. Like, give them something, you know, breakable. So, in any case, you can only use this effect once per turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add a Uriah, Haman, or Ravael from your deck to your hand. So even when all these cards are in the graveyard, they have some sort of effect that triggers to pretty much give you more advantage. So that's pretty nice. They're able to make up for a lot of the downsides of playing Sacred Beasts that you have to lose a ton of advantage to get into them. So they either like cheat them out or just give you an easy way to get them out, which is nice. Moving on to some of the reprints, though, Phantom of Chaos. We have Phantom Skyblaster. It's nice because it gives you tokens, I suppose. It's limited to 1, unfortunately. Mad Reloader. We're going to have a lot of fiends in here, I imagine. Grave Squirmer. Rainbow Dark Dragon, Tragodia, you know, talk about throwbacks. Radiant's actually a really nice reprint. Kaijus can get expensive at times, and Radiant was like one of the few that didn't have a reprint, so this is pretty nice to see in here for anyone looking to get cheap copies of Radiant. It's a dark, so like that matters with like Allure of Darkness and such. Chaos Hunter is a nice reprint. It's been reprinted already though, so it's not as good. We got Puppet Master. Stygian Street Patrol is just like the textbook fiend support. Farfa, shoutouts to Farfa. Fabled Cerburial, I'm going to butcher that name. Danger Chupacabra, this is such a weird inclusion. I know there's some cards in the OCG deck that we didn't get here in the TCG, but like, Chupacabra, really, like, the best thing that this is A, it's a fiend, B, it's a free special summon, I guess, to help you get more fiends on the field for, like, Ravael, I suppose, but, like, they could have given you, like, Mothman as well. Like, I feel like the fact that, like, the other effect is literally worthless because you can't get anything out of the graveyard. It's kind of a disappointment. But now we have Opening of the Spirit Gates. This card is so, so good. So it's a continuous spell for Haman, of course. When this card is activated, add one Uriah, Haman, or Ravael, or a monster that specifically lists any of those cards in its text from your deck to your hand. So that can get all of the other new monsters as well, so you can get like Dark Summoning Beast, and you get anything else. So just pluses on pluses with this card. Once per turn, you can discard one card, special summon one fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard. So again, we get more cards back into the graveyard. Also, getting our other ones into the grave might not matter because they have graveyard triggers, so you don't really lose any advantage on that exchange. Once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, you can add one continuous spell from your graveyard to your hand. You can only activate one of this card per turn. So just like if you were to make the perfect searcher for an archetype, like, this is what it would look like. Like, this card is incredible. It's unfortunate it's locked to Sacred Beast, but still pretty cool nonetheless. Fallen Paradise, this is the field spell. What's noteworthy here is that if you control Uriah, Haman, Ravael, or Armatile in your monster zone, you can draw 2 cards. Like, that's pretty sweet. Anytime you see a card that's Pot of Greed is nice, and it pretty much just, you can use that every turn too. Phantasmal Martyrs, this is going to be more Sacred Beast stuff. Spell Chronicle, like, why is this card in here? This is one of the most random reprints I've ever seen. Do you guys remember, like, how many times Spell Chronicle's, like, been hyped in the past and it was just completely unjustified? Man, talk about a throwback. Terraforming, we've got plenty of those. Set Rotation, I guess, is nice, but, like, I don't think Set Rotation was really hard to get. Mound of the Bound Creator, makes sense because it's, like, level 10 deck. 1-for-1 makes sense with the, not the Dark Summoning Beast, but the Chaos, the one that summons one from the hand. Beginning to the end, this looks very weird common to me, but it's a cool reprint just because I don't think it's really been reprinted outside of Phantom Darkness. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Pot of Desires, at this point, Pot of Desires is going to be like a 5-cent card with the amount of reprints that it has, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's great that Pot of Desires is in circulation. Owner Seal for the Kaiju, I suppose. That seems really weird. Field Barrier to protect. Swords of Concealing Light, this is fine. Like, this didn't really need a reprint, but this is, like, pretty decent removal. It sucks that it's, like, anti-link because you can't switch, you know, links to defense, unfortunately, but it's nice. Mystical Space Typhoon for spell and trap removal. Awakening of the Sacred Beast, this is one of the last new cards here. This card gains the effects based on the number of Uriah, Haman, and Ravael with different names you control. If you control 1 or more, each time your opponent normal or special summons a monster, gain life points equal to the attack of that monster. Okay, fine. 2 or more, negate the activated effects of monsters your opponent controls. So it's skill drain, essentially. That's really, really good if you can get those Sacred Beasts to stick. And 3 or more, or excuse me, 3 exactly, any monster sent to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. Once per turn, if you control level 10 monster, you can add a continuous trap from your graveyard to your hand. So it's kind of similar to the continuous spell. But the big thing here is that number 2 effect, being able to lock your opponent out of any activated effects. Like, this is one of the reasons why this deck can be, like, somewhat playable, because if you can get 2 Sacred Beasts and this, like, you pretty much, like, your opponent's not going to be able to do anything. Like, it is so tough to play under a card like that. Escape from the Dark Dimension, there's a lot of banishing dark monsters in this deck, so it makes sense. Shape Sister, just to give us some more fiends to work with. Imperial Custom to protect Uriah, I guess. I think they did that back in the day. Mistake is a nice reprint for anyone looking to get those, but it's already pretty cheap. Dark Factory of more production. We have Phantasm Emperor Trilogic. I probably completely butchered that, but this can be summoned off of that pseudo super poly effect for the archetype, which is pretty neat. It's just a huge beater. Like, that's really all it is, but, like, it can be a game ender. 4,000 attack is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's just huge. Here are the Phantasmal Martyr tokens, which are cool that there's a bunch of them, and then we get the regular stuff that we typically get. So, guys, that's gonna do it for this opening. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this deck overall. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.